Hello everyone and welcome to Merlin's Manor. Today I'm going to review and compare two games, Welcome to Your Perfect Home and the sequel to it, Welcome to the Moon. Now both of these games are flip and write games where you are flipping three cards over with numbers on them that will be paired with cards with symbols on them. And then you'll write down the numbers in spaces, typically in rows that need to go in ascending order, and take the benefit of the card with the symbol on it. Now these two games have quite a bit of similarity, but they also stand apart from one another as well. In this video I'm going to start out by reviewing each game, and then I will make comparisons between the two and tell you whether I feel there's room for both of these games or not. And I'll include timestamps below so you can check out the portions that you want to check out. First, let's take a look at Welcome to. Each turn you flip three cards and they will be paired with the next card in the deck. One has a number on it and the other has a symbol for a benefit to be used. You are striving to place numbers on streets in ascending order. They don't have to be consecutive, but they are to be in ascending order. If you cannot place any of the numbers, you will get negative points on the second and third times, and the third time you will actually trigger the end of the game. Now the various benefits give you points for placing pools on certain locations, trees on streets, creating subdivisions with fences, increasing the value of your subdivisions, or increasing or decreasing the number that's used that round by between 0 and 2 points, and then you get a bonus if you have the most of those used, or second most or third most. You're also trying to score 3 objectives, and if you score any of them first, you get more points than those who score them later on. Game ends when the person scores all 3 objectives, any person has filled their entire board, or a person has failed to place a street number 3 times. Now this game is a bit of a point salad type game where you have a variety of ways to score points and you're trying to maximize the points that you score. You all have the same opportunities as you are given the same card pairings, and it comes down to who placed them best. Sometimes taking a risk and hoping that that risk will pay off, and sometimes playing it a little bit safer and that may pay off as well. And gameplay is simultaneous, which also means a game with 100 people or the game with 2 people is going to last about the same amount of time. Now there are different score sheets available that offer some small twists, and there's also dry eraser boards available to use. Now let's talk about the gameplay for a moment. Welcome to offers an interesting puzzle to solve each game. You'll find yourself calculating ideal spots for numbers and considering the probability of getting the numbers you need in between or after or before the numbers that you have placed. This is especially true as the game progresses towards the end and possibilities begin to narrow down. There's some luck involved as the right cards just might not come up towards the end of your game, but this is mitigated to a degree by having 3 choices and being able to plan for higher likelihood of being able to place numbers. You may choose to play things a little safer or go for that riskier and more potential better payoffs. There's a good bit of strategy to this game that is rather simple and basic on the surface. Will you focus on pools, which are harder to place and could end up with you making sacrifices that will not pay off later on, but which increase in value the more that you are able to place? Or will you focus on trees, which give a 2-point benefit for each one, and about 6 to 10 points extra if you fill up all the trees in a row? Or you will focus on making more of a certain number of subdevelopments and raising the value of those subdevelopments? Will you try to grab the bonus for most construction zones used? Will you chase after the bonus cards to get them first? And if so, which ones will you focus on? Ultimately, you will use some combination probably of these different strategies and sometimes find yourself having to pivot when the cards just don't play to the certain strategy that you were working towards. Now, this game offers a very satisfying puzzle to solve, which will change each game based on the cards that come up. This game can be played at all player counts, as many as you have sheets for. But the more people playing, there's going to be more competition to be first for different objectives, as well as potentially bringing on the end game sooner, as somebody may score those objectives quicker than otherwise would happen, or somebody fills up their board and can't place any more quicker than would have happened otherwise. Now you can also play this game solo, and has a couple different solo modes. First that came with it is kind of bland, but they came out with an Alexis solo mode, which is much better. And I'd highly recommend playing with that one over the original solo mode. And in this Alexis solo mode, you are basically looking at 3 cards, and because they have in the corner though it's on the back of the cards, you're choosing either the symbol that's on the back or you're choosing the number. And you're going to choose the number for one of them, the symbol for one of them, and the third one you're going to give the symbol to the AI. And the AI scores certain amounts depending on which one it is, and they have different difficulties ranging from 1 to 6, plus there's 4 named characters, which are, I think, harder than the numbered ones. Or at the very least, I know one of them was harder, because I actually lost to him once and barely won a second time, and that was Ben. Seems to be the hardest to me if you are interested in trying to ramp it up to the highest level. And so you're basically trying to outscore them by keeping them from getting the things that are going to best benefit them. And they're also scoring developments by how many cards are between fences. And their real estate doubles or sometimes triples. I can't remember one of them quadrupled, but they double or triple the amount that those are worth sometimes. And so you need to be very careful about them getting the real estate card in with a bunch of other cards. And so it's a very interesting kind of puzzle trying to figure out what's best for you while being careful not to give what's best to the AI. Now, components are very basic as most flip or roll and writes go. You have sheets of paper that you write on. It comes with 100 sheets. And so you can play 52 player games or 25 4-player games. But you can, and I recommend that you do, buy dry erase boards. There's a 4-pack that they sell, which will extend this game quite a bit, as you only need to use paper for games that have more than 4 players. Cards are good quality. They hold up really well. The look is pretty cool. It gives the feelings of being a 1950s housing developer. The theme works really well this way, even down to coffee stain rings on some of the cards. A simple yet well thought out and implemented theme that comes out in the components themselves. And so I really enjoyed how that theme came out that way. Replayability, we have gotten quite a few games of this game in and still really enjoy it. There's quite a bit of variability between the various objective cards and the random order that cards are going to come out, and how the numbers will pair with benefits, making every game play out differently. And if the base game starts to get dry or you just want to mix things up a bit, there are several expansion packs that come with their own sets of sheets. Each one adds some mechanics that change the gameplay a bit while still keeping the same core gameplay. So it's very easy to switch to a different map and learn a few changes that are being made there. Some final thoughts on the Welcome To. I really enjoy Welcome To, and I give it a 9 out of 10. The theme is implemented very well. The gameplay offers a satisfying puzzle, and it has plenty of replayability. If you enjoy thinky, puzzly games that are fairly light, but with potential for deeper strategy, I highly recommend Welcome To. Now let's talk about Welcome to the Moon. Now, Welcome to the Moon is similar with a space theme, but offers 8 different maps which play differently, which offers a lot of replayability. A game uses dry erase boards, which will limit the game to 6 players, but will also mean you won't run out of sheets. Gameplay has the same core mechanics as Welcome To, but each map adds significant ways that those mechanics get twisted, so that each feels like a totally different game. In essence, you are getting 8 games in one with this game. This is a game with great replayability, but it does add a bit of a learning curve with each new game style. With Welcome To's expansions, there's only a slight tweak to the gameplay, but Welcome to the Moon makes some major changes from game to game, which keeps things very fresh, but it will cause you to take some time to learn each one and adjust to the mechanics. Okay, let's go over the 8 different boards now. And the first one here is a race to build this rocket ship by getting all these different rockets. And all these are going to tell kind of a different story as we're going through here. And so you're trying to prepare to lift off into space. And so you're trying to be the first person to create your rocket. And then the second one here, you are traveling through space and you are trying to, basically you've got this big long row. And of course, you're not going to be able to fill everything into that row 1 to 15 because there's a lot more than 15 spaces there. And so at points throughout the thing, you have to figure out how to get a couple of these lightning bolts in order to create barriers along the way to restart the numbering process. And so you have to be quick to kind of get those out and figure out where you want to put those so that you can kind of divide it up so you can actually get all your numbers in there. So it offers an interesting puzzle there. Here is board number 3. And here you are settling and you're setting up these different communications relays, and it offers kind of a different puzzle because you kind of are going left, trying to go ascending from left to right and ascending from bottom to top. And so you kind of have to be concerned with both the rows and the columns there as you do all of that. You're also trying to race to connect some of these different communications arrays. And so that's kind of a cool little thing right there. And you also are having a competition to whoever can fill in each square the fastest. And so there's lots of different things to kind of keep track of there and focus on. And here's number 4. Here you are mining. And so there's different things down here that have different symbols on them for when you complete that whole row, right, or that whole column right there. You will then get to claim all the different things that are in there. And so you're trying to work to get some of the different resources, and you use those resources up here for different things. And so there's a lot going on to this one. Here's number 5. And on this one, you are building up these towers, and you have to actually start in the middle there. And so you're hoping for kind of a middle of the road number to start out with for each of these. If you get some low numbers and high numbers at the beginning, it's going to be kind of tough on you. But you're basically trying to start here and go down as you go lower, and go up with your numbers as you go higher. And so everything has to be placed onto a number in that tower that's adjacent to the previous one that you've placed. And so you're building kind of up and down from there. And then you're also trying to build this dome right here in order to keep from getting some negative consequences there. Now let's take a look at number 6. And here you are trying to prevent this virus from spreading. And so you're trying to block off different areas before the virus kind of starts to spread from the different areas. And so you can wind up getting into a lot of trouble really quickly if you aren't blocking those off, or if people are kind of rushing the game in certain ways that causes more viruses to propagate. Because once you can no longer fill in numbers in a row with a virus, it will spread to every connected pathway for each time that virus propagates. And so you have to be very careful about blocking off as well as leaving space before you've been able to block off, so that they don't start spreading profusely to all the different areas. It offers a lot of a very complicated kind of thing to keep track of there, and it might be even the most complicated one of them because of that. Number 7, you are getting all of these different escape pods, escape vehicles ready to launch, and you are going to have to connect these different little pathways before you can build in anything. So you're going to have to start at the bottom, and once you build a pathway up, you can go to the next ones. Build pathways over, you can come over to the other sides. And so you're going to be building up those pathways as well as trying to just fill in different things. You're going to try and get plants ready to be put on there for extra points. All the different ways that you score extra points has its own kind of unique way of implementing those, of course. And so it's very fun as well. All of these are very fun. And then this may be the most unique of all of them. You're actually going to be playing on 2 different boards, playing with the player on your left and the player on your right, or in a 2-player game, you're just going to have the 2 different boards, and you're going to take turns playing one round, you're going to play on one board, and the next round you're going to switch to the other board. And so you're going to be in competition with the other players in that way. And you're going to be trying to get numbers filled in to get benefits for yourself without them being able to take over those benefits. On this track right here, one player is going to start going one way and the other player is going to go the other way. And you're going to kind of get in a competition to get to the middle ones, which have the higher benefits. And so there's just a lot of interaction in this one. Most of the Welcome To boards don't have much interaction. It's mainly just kind of a solitaire for the most part of you focusing on your thing. The only kind of interaction there is who gets to objectives first. But in this one, you are completely interacting with the other player to your left and to your right, or in a 2-player game just with the other player. And so there's definitely the most unique one there. Okay, now I'm going to talk about our least favorites and favorites of these different boards. My least favorite is the first one where you're just kind of racing to 150 rockets. It plays very differently than the rest of the Welcome To style games, in that here you're just trying to be the first to score a certain threshold and then you win the game. Whereas all the other ones, you are just trying to compile the best score you can, and at the end you compare your scores. And so I didn't really like the race feature of this as much. I prefer that kind of pointality, trying to just score points in various different ways, and at the end you see who scores the most points. Originally was not a big fan of the virus one because it causes a lot of problems for you, but then it grew on me. Now my favorites are probably number 2, where you are planning out a way to cut up the track in different ways in order to be able to continue to write down the numbers. They added a very nice puzzle to that. And also number 7, where you are kind of planning out your route to try and get up to the top and get all these different other numbers out. I really enjoy that one as well. My wife's favorites, like me, number 2. She really enjoys number 2. But also, she really enjoys the mining one, if I can find that here. She really enjoyed this mining one, getting the different resources and all that. She enjoyed that very much. But like I said, all of these maps are really good. Other than the first one, it's hard to even kind of compare them to try and figure out a favorite. They're all that good. And they all add kind of interesting challenge as well. Let's move on to talking about the components. The components are very good. Dry erase boards are nice for longevity. Cards are a dry erase board material that will hold up very well. Tuck boxes are nice to keep everything organized, although it's not immediately clear what's meant to go in each box. And 3 of those boxes have the same symbol on them, which would be nice if they would have been differentiated a little bit better there. The 2 books, the rule book and the campaign book, look great. They're very well done. There is a campaign sheet on the back of the campaign book, which I recommend printing out a copy of it instead of using the one on the book. You can find a link to that. It's given on their page, and I'm going to include a link in the description down below. Now, the game itself is very highly replayable, as you have 8 different games in one that use the Welcome To mechanic very well in very different ways. Then there is the replayability that simply comes from the different objectives and card order coming up, just like in the original Welcome To. Add on to that the campaign mode, which I highly recommend playing this way, as it gives you an excuse to play each map in sequence, and it tells a sequential story as you go from one sheet to the next. There are also multiple playthroughs in the campaign, and each one will change things up even more by changing the rules to each map a little bit, which just adds all the more to that replayability. And although the campaign will need to be played with the same people for it to work well, it worked great for my wife and I. And so we really enjoyed playing through that campaign. Now let's talk about the theme. The theme for this game is great if you are into sci-fi. Each map adds to a story, which admittedly is more about giving you just a bit of theme to each map than really an engaging story in itself, but that's totally fine. And the choose your own adventure type story doesn't try to take itself too seriously, and so it just works very well for the purpose. Not only did we enjoy playing the game for its gameplay, but we wanted to keep on playing to see what would happen next and what twists and turns would come about. And so we really enjoyed the theme and how it worked into the game. Okay, final thoughts on Welcome to the Moon. I give Welcome to the Moon a 9.5 out of 10, as it takes the game mechanics of Welcome To and it builds on them wonderfully to create such a diverse set of games built around that same basic mechanic. The replayability of this game is off the charts due to practically having 8 games in the box, and on top of that, the campaign changes each of those up with subtle twists. And once you've completed all the playthroughs of the campaign, which will take a few times playing through the 8 different sheets, you can come back and make different decisions and get totally different twists in the gameplay. This game feels about as close as you can get to being infinitely replayable and offers a very satisfying puzzle to complete each time you play. If you like puzzly type games, I highly recommend Welcome to the Moon. Okay, now let's go ahead and compare these games. They're both great games. I believe there's room in a collection for both games. Welcome to Your Perfect Home is much lighter, and it will have a wider entry-level appeal. In short, it offers a much more ease of access. I would highly recommend starting with Welcome to get the basics down, and even after that, this would be a good game for introducing others to the game. Welcome to is better for when you want a more relaxing version. It is also better for playing with families. Our 9-year-old was able to play it even when she was 8 years old, and it's going to be great for less avid gamers. Welcome To can also be played with more players without buying multiple sets. Now, I rate Welcome to the Moon higher due to the sheer amount of replayability and how it adds so much strategy from game to game. But keep in mind, each new sheet requires practically a whole new teach, and so it may not be as good for playing with gamers who prefer lighter weight games and will require a bit more commitment to play the various sheets. Also, part of the appeal to Welcome to the Moon is playing through the campaigns, which requires a group committing to that if you are going to play more than one-off games and really get the full value. But even playing one-off games of Welcome to the Moon is very fun in and of itself. Both games do offer a solo mode. I haven't played the Welcome to the Moon solo mode yet, and Welcome To has a decent solo mode in which you have to be concerned with what you give the AI player, at least if you're playing that newer version, which I recommend, that has the solo mode by Alexis. And so these are both great games. I highly recommend both. There's room in your collection for both of them, and there's going to be a different appeal probably to different groups. But at the same time, they all have the same basic mechanic that works really well. And so we really enjoy both of these games and bring them out for different reasons. If we want a lighter game, just kind of relax and play, we do Welcome to Your Perfect Home. If we want something with a little bit more crunch, a little bit more strategy, we're going to bring out Welcome to the Moon. And so I enjoy both these games, highly recommend them both. And I'll catch you in the next video.